Welcome to the latest episode of Floor's Yours, an extension of the Five on the Floor podcast. I am your host for the evening. Ethan Skolnick got the night off, lucky guy. I am your host, Greg Sylvander. My esteemed panel surrounds me, but before we get into that, I want to kick off the show giving a major shout out to our sponsor. This is a new sponsor for every Floor's Yours. So as you guys know, most Thursdays we're doing this, and that is Mark Brown, PA. If you're a young single individual, it's important to have a meeting with Mark Brown to make sure someone you trust is making decisions for you. If you're unconscious or incapacitated, if you're young with a family, you need to meet with him so that you can set up plans for your kids. If anything unfortunate ever happens, you don't want to think about that. It's morbid, but it is the realities of life. Even if you're older and you do not have a family, you should have a say in where your estate goes. If you're older and have a family, it's important that you meet so that your family can avoid disputes when you eventually pass. Mark Brown, PA is a small firm which allows them to be focused on their clients, and they remain always available. In addition, they work with tons of real estate. They have a title company, and they are experts in handling property assets. So reach out to Mark Brown, PA. You can also visit his website, markbrownpa.com, and contact him at 954-566-5678. Again, that's Mark Brown, PA, and you can even give him a follow on Twitter, Mark with a C, Brown _PA. Tell him Five on the Floor and Floor's Yours sent ya. Now, to my esteemed panel that surrounds me, directly above me is Ricky J. Mark. You are used to seeing him on pre- and post-game shows, but we're bringing him in for Floor's Yours. Directly to the side of me is Marco Romo, who every time he writes something, I'm more impressed. So mad shout-outs and props to you. And up above me is Grillin' Alex. I don't think he has 6 to the top or 6 to the bottom. So if he's grilling, he's doing it with his teeth. Alex Toledo is here with me as well. What up, y'all?
I didn't catch any of those references.
6, you need to spend more time in Northwest Miami, dog. Okay, so on we go to the show. This is we're going to be interactive. We're going to look for your comments. We're going to get into some of what you guys may provide to us. We've always wanted to make Before Floor kind of an extension of the podcast, bring it to you guys, bring it in your living room, and you dictate what we talk about. But I'm going to set the stage here and go around the room with you guys on an interesting topic, and it's kind of not related to watching what we've seen the last couple of games, because who the hell wants to talk about that? And that is, as we get ahead to the summer and we look at this roster and roster construction and who will be available, who is locked in long-term, who is not, I'm interested to hear from each of you. What do you think is the biggest position of need? Because I feel like this is a roster where we started the season where we talked about how there was so much depth, how there was basically they were 3 deep at every position. And so how was Spo going to balance having all these guys? And now we're in a position where it looks like there really isn't a real point guard, and there's a lack of a big man. There's a lack of some shot creation. So now there's holes where maybe we weren't poking initially. So I'm interested as we get to the summer, and Goran Dragic will be a free agent. They can create cap space, so they have flexibility. Marco Romo, I'm going to start with you. Are we going point guard? Are we going big? Shot creator? Where do you think their biggest need is?
To me, it's always kind of fluctuated, but I'm at the point where I think it's shot creation. But it has to be, I think, a certain shot creation. You can't just go out there looking for like a Eric Bledsoe type. You want something like in the happy medium, because you thought that was going to be Goran Dragic, and he's looking. I don't want to say washed, but that laundry's getting ready to get soaked.
Tired.
So I'm not sure if Miami's probably going to look to bring him back on a team-friendly deal anyway, and I'm pretty sure he'll be fine with that too. He knows he knows like he's not what he used to be. But the shot creation, I think, gives a lot of relief to the rest of the roster. It's more about rim pressure is really where I'm going at. A guy who can pretty much just put pressure on the rim. That's where the Vic question comes in. You're going to be like, are we going to pay this guy even just a 1-year deal? That's going to be for maybe $20 million to see if he proves it. But you never know what comes up in the offseason. You could get another starter that doesn't want to be where he is right now. So you don't know what comes up. That shot creation could be answered with a guy that wants out, that you didn't expect to, want to get out of his situation. But yeah, I don't know about the big man thing though. I'm less inclined about that. I'm fine with Bam as the backup big. I feel like you could find pretty easily. I think I'm fine with Ariza at the 4. Those kind of guys, like if you're gonna want to re-sign Ariza for like a year, I think I'm fine with that. I'm pretty big on the shot creation at this point.
You know what? I'm really with you on this whole big man thing. We're fixated on it because there's issues, and I'm sure maybe there'll be some on this panel that disagree. But you mentioned shot creation and Vic, and I kind of agree with you. I feel like that's the biggest thing, but it's probably the hardest thing to get the right player to do that. And Vic was the guy. And now that Goran isn't the guy, and it's not happening for him now. In some ways, I almost feel like that makes the decisions this summer easier. If Goran had another crazy run, we'd feel inclined to pay him another $20 million, and you don't have to do that. Alex, do you think it's the point guard position, or are you leaning shot creator like Marco is?
Well, I'm kind of blending both of those things into one because, I guess if I had to pick a position, it would be point guard. But like Marco was talking about, shot creation would be the focus. And, we talked about, the rim pressure and how important it is for the Heat to add somebody else who can get to the rim and take pressure off Jimmy, especially when Goran is not really getting to the rim anymore. He was doing a lot of it last season coming off the bench, and those bench lineups were great. And then in the bubble, he played like an all-star, stepped up to the task. And it's just not the case, right? Like, not only is he not anywhere near that all-star level, those bench lineups are just not good. And I understand he's playing there with Precious, who is not very analytics friendly because he makes a lot of mistakes and all that. But Goran is just not the guy that he was before. And so if he's not getting to the rim, you need somebody else to do that. Depot's health concerns worry me. But if we're just talking about outside of him, it's really hard to not think about this in specific names. And I think you know where I'm going, man. I think it sounds like this offseason, they might just be in the mix for a couple of different names, including Depot, and the other one being Kyle Lowry, who we already know about his interests. And it just seems like that's the type of shot creators that they could really use. They could find a way to somehow bring Depot on a team-friendly deal and use cap space on Lowry. Send it in. That's what I'm all about.
Right. That is best case scenario. But,
yeah.
It's funny as we talk about this more and as I listen to all you guys, they really got to address all of these issues, to be honest with you. They're not going to make a run without even addressing the big. But as far as point guards are concerned, Ricky, you're a big Lonzo Ball guy, right?
I am absolutely. And that's actually essentially the prototype type of player that I wish this Heat team had. The Miami Heat haven't had a pure ball distributor since, if you want to make Jason Williams the pure type of distributor, which in and of itself is kind of iffy, but since LeBron James, I think while it's good to have shot creators, in theory you already have that on this team. You have that to some extent, Tyler Hero, Jimmy Butler, and maybe Victor Oladipo if you bring him back on a team-friendly deal. But as this league continues to evolve, I can't help but notice that point guards have become more and more shorter shooting guards, seeking their own offense. And Lonzo Ball types are increasingly rare all of a sudden. I think when you have a Lonzo Ball type of floor general, ball distributor, on-court coach, it makes it a lot easier for your for the shot creators that you already have to focus more on their offense. Let's use the Los Angeles Clippers, for example. Paul George has been on an absolute tear lately.
Yes.
And I can't help but notice that it coincides with Rajon Rondo coming to the team. Now, Paul George, all he has to do, instead of worrying about getting everybody else involved, all he has to do is worry about being aggressive, because Paul George's two greatest abilities, aside from the stuff that Miami Heat fans clown him for, are scoring and playing defense. And if those are the only two things he has to worry about, then we are maximizing the things that guys like him, Jimmy Butler, even Tyler Hero are good at. They can worry about scoring, and they don't necessarily have to worry about ball distribution so much as they would otherwise. Because while I do appreciate the positionless type of offense that Spo has been preaching for quite some time, especially after spending the summer with, I think, that one football coach from Oregon a couple of years back. I think it's best if you have your players playing within their skill sets, playing within their roles. If they do that, if everybody sees their job a lot easier, then it works out for everybody. The last point I'll make is that essentially for the two or so games that Victor Oladipo played for this team, guys were starting to settle more into roles that fit their skill sets. And for however brief that time was, you were able to see the kind of juggernaut this team could potentially be when you're not forcing Tyler Hero to be a point guard or Jimmy Butler to have to do just about everything. Victor made it a little easier for everybody else to do their jobs because the pressure on everybody wasn't as great. Duncan Robinson started shooting well again. And when that happens, it works out best for the entire team.
It's a really good point that you bring up in terms of like just that you started to see that just that extra bit of firepower was kind of what this team was lacking. I'm interested, Marco, for your perspective on Alex alluded to this this Kyle Lowry situation. So in every league circle that I'm in, every text message thread, in every DM thread that I'm on, everybody around the league is operating as if Kyle Lowry is going to be playing for the Miami Heat next year. So that is just, I mean, I'm not reporting anything. Y'all don't need to come after me like this is LaMarcus Aldridge day. But that's like a foregone conclusion. Marco, I'm interested to hear from you. Do you like Lonzo Ball better or Kyle Lowry for this team better?
Wow, I just got to drop the bomb there. Dang, I've always been a big Lonzo fan, as Ricky can attest to that.
Riley too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Riley liked him back in UCLA. You know, he like watched him play a lot. Man, it depends. Like for the short term, I'm gonna say Lowry. Like if you're gonna want to win immediately, I'm gonna say Kyle. But like, man, the Lonzo thing is interesting to me. When I watch Lonzo play, he's not like I'm going to run a pick and roll here and, you know, dish off to anybody who's coming my way. He's more like a really, really, really good secondary playmaker. And I mean, Miami could really use that right now. Lowry is a straight up pick and roll point guard. But he's able to mold his game really well. That's what Lowry's always been able to do, whether it's with, you know, DeMar DeRozan or Kawhi Leonard or like Rudy Gay. He always knows how to play alongside a guy who's dominant with the ball. So it's not going to be much of a worry there. He can play on ball, off ball. He's like the perfect kind of guy for Miami. But yeah, now that you said that, people act like he's going to be in Miami next year. I can see that. It's still so surprising to me that he's still in Toronto and he's not even playing right now. They're resting him on his third straight night. You don't rest a guy on 3 straight games.
I know.
You're just putting a white flag out there. But yeah, I think
Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, but you know they were trying to win. But with my thing, it's like, yeah, I'm going to go Lowry on the short term. But if you can get Lonzo for what 5 years, if you're going to say he's going to be your point guard of the future,
let's say $480 million, 4 years, $80 million.
I honestly wouldn't be mad at that. Not really.
Oh
but
God.
If you're going to get Lowry for like a year, you're going to be pushing. You're going to probably make a lot of other moves to coincide with that to say we're going to be all in this, like with Jimmy's window here.
You mentioned it. I'm so glad you hit Jimmy's window because I have just a total gut feeling that if you ask Jimmy who he'd rather have, he would take Kyle Lowry.
100%.
As we were all watching the deadline happen and we were happy that we got Oladipo, I almost felt like there was an element of it that was anticlimactic because everyone thought Lowry was going to end up in Miami. And I even almost like felt the vibe from Jimmy that it was anticlimactic that Oladipo was the one who arrived. I feel like he thought Lowry was coming. Alex, do you think I want to circle back to Lonzo on this. Do you think he can keep up this 38% 3-point shooting? One, because that would be a huge question mark for me to commit 4 years, 80 million? And two, how much are you considering who Jimmy would want in this conversation?
Well, I'm definitely considering that. I mean, Jimmy's the best player on the team. You promised him that you were going to try to win in that window of time while he's still in his prime here, and he's obviously still in his prime. Like I was saying this last night, I just think he's so much better, and he'd obviously think he's so much better than he thought, he would be. And I just think at this point, it's like Kyle Lowry, like Marco said, is the win now option. I don't think it's even really close. I wouldn't be mad at 4 years, 80 million for Lonzo either. I think Lonzo's a nice player, but to your point, the whole like 3-point percentage thing and him being such a good player this year, it's come in the way of him not being their main creator. It's him being kind of a super role player while Zion and Ingram do the creating. So although I do kind of get, I do get Ricky's argument, like the whole Rondo thing for the Clippers, they needed a guy like that. And I'm not, the biggest Rondo guy either, but it's true. Kawhi and Paul George need to not focus on playmaking. The difference between them and us is Jimmy and Bam do focus on a whole lot of playmaking. So I don't know how much they need necessarily a traditional point guard. And I think Lonzo, if you were to sign him here, would serve a completely different role than Oladipo or Lowry. Like I think Lonzo would be doing a lot of like more, initiating stats and kind of just looking more like a role player than guys like Lowry who were looking to be more of that traditional point guard. And like Marco said, can play on or off ball and maybe doesn't get to the rim as much as Oladipo, but can score in a lot of different ways, is a 3-level scorer, great defender, great leader, all that. And like I said, like to me, all three of those guys are good players. I'm cool with all of them. Lowry's the best one. I don't think it's very close. It's just, he's 35.
This is true. Maybe a short-term deal. I want to give a shout out to Arbra for the $1.99 he did via super chat. Let you guys know if ever you want to show your support, you can find that feature right here on YouTube as well. And he brings up an interesting point. He or she, I'm not sure, but they bring up a interesting point about what do you think about uniting DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry? So initially, when I thought about this, I was like, this is complete BS. There's just no way you can manufacture enough flexibility to bring in both. But when you see the way Brooklyn, the Clippers, and the Lakers have been loading up, I feel like there's going to be a pull from somebody to load up, and you may see sacrifices happen. I just have a feeling. So I don't think DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry is too far-fetched. Do any of you guys not like the idea of those two guys being the primary additions, but essentially you wouldn't be adding anything else to the roster?
Wow.
Go, Ricky. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely. Here's the thing. I get that in a hypothetical situation, you wouldn't necessarily be relying on DeMar DeRozan to finish a game for you, even though historically he becomes a pumpkin after April 19th. But I just don't know. Like, I'm not sure I'm super comfortable with a starting lineup of Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Jimmy Butler, insert power forward here, and then Bam Adebayo at their respective ages. I really feel like this Heat team can do so much better while also balancing out the youth and experience factor without necessarily reuniting them. I think Toronto, had they really wanted to, could have done that. They could have brought back DeMar DeRozan probably at the trade deadline for whatever reason, since it's clear that the Spurs are hemorrhaging players. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. DeJounte Murray, unfortunately, his injury set them back a few years. Had he not gotten hurt, they probably still would have been a consistent playoff team. But I don't see it. And, stretching the floor, you've got Jimmy, you've got DeMar. There's a lot of redundancy there. Kyle Lowry's got a few years left, and then I don't know. So I would much rather, honestly, if you told me I had to choose between Vic and DeRozan, I'd rather give me Vic and Lowry if that is even a possibility this summer. That said, Team Lonzo.
I like what Ricky pointed out there, the redundancy thing. That's what I've always been like bringing up whenever people talk about, during the trade period, that bringing him along with Jimmy, I always thought those guys do a lot of the similar things. They operate in a similar way. Jimmy's like a souped up version because he plays defense and, he like does a lot more like things than DeRozan does.
He has the guts.
Yeah, he has the guts. And he's actually shown up in the finals and playoffs. But yeah, they do a lot of the similar type stuff, but and I've never been a big fan of like the two pairing together. And I also would probably rather have Vic, who probably demand less than DeMar would, because I'm guessing DeMar wants one last, paycheck around there. And yeah, if that was your only two moves, I wouldn't feel very good about it.
Yeah,
I will give props to DeMar though. He's been a really good passer this year. He's like a really insane playmaker.
Yeah, and Ricky brought up a good point. I don't think that they'd be able to start those guys. I feel like Duncan Robinson has to start some way, somehow. So I guess, Alex, I'll go back to you.
Small ball 4.
Hey, maybe he'll grow a couple inches over the summer. You know that happens with guys every once in a while. Alex, so let's just operate as if Kyle Lowry is coming to the Heat, and that's happening for sure. What would be the next move you would like to see most?
Oh, that part is easy. Re-sign Duncan Robinson. I mean, like I said earlier, obviously the best case scenario is if you can bring on Lowry, Depot, and keep Duncan. Like, I think it may be possible since they have Depot's bird rights now.
Yeah, no, there is ways, but at that point, we talk about redundancy. Are we doing anything for the stretch 4?
Look, I'm good with Ariza, man. I really am. Like, I wouldn't mind looking into the trade market again to kind of replace Iguodala as he starts. As he continues to age. Let me not say starts to age, but I'm definitely good with Trevor. I would like for them to bring Trevor back. I like the look that they have right now on the defensive end with both Ariza and Andre, and I think those guys would look a lot better to Heat fans if they had an extra creator like we've been talking about, and they were kind of placed back in that role where they're just kind of like not doing very much on offense and just playing the great defense they're supposed to. Like every time Trevor or Andre dribble, I get nervous. Like I start sweating like I'm in the game along with them. So, and I think they feel the same. I mean, they need to bring on some creators, man. So,
and we're gonna wrap here shortly, but talking moves in the chat brings up a possibility. What would we think about a sign and trade type of package where you sent Oladipo, Hero, and Duncan to Washington for Bradley Beal? Does anybody have the guts to hold on to the depth and the youth for Bradley Beal anymore? Anybody on this panel have the guts to do that?
Hell no.
Is there any what is too much for Bradley Beal? Is there a package that's too much?
Just one that includes Bam.
The Harden package. 4 picks, 4 pick swaps. I don't know, something like that. I don't know how many they could. Yeah. I mean, they can't even give out like exactly. Just
it's funny because for me, I find myself having moved past the home run deal, so to speak, because you already have a guy like Bam. You already have a guy like Jimmy who has at least maybe 3 years left of high level 45-point triple-double in the NBA Finals type play. And I know that Brooklyn did what they needed to do. But when you consider the way this Heat team plays, the way Spo gets these guys ready, and considering what we emphasize, which is defense, it's one of the reasons why I was such a proponent of the Victor Oladipo trade. I said before, once we got Victor Oladipo, we had a very serious, we very seriously could have contended in the East to the point where we could have snuck back into the NBA Finals. Because I can't help but think back to, some of those by committee type teams, like that 2013 Nuggets team that had Iggy on it, that won 57 games. The 2004 Pistons team.
Lost the first round?
Well, that's because they didn't have a closer. Miami does. The 2004 Pistons team, which was a by-committee team, got one guy, but had a closer in Chauncey Billups. And I think this Heat team, I remember reading some articles last season about how the Heat were already getting comparisons to that 04 team.
Yeah.
Assuming Victor is healthy, you don't have to necessarily break the bank to add to that core as it is. And not only that, you have a core that you could potentially, this is the kind of core you could run back as opposed to that 2006 team or that 2013 team. It's something that I think we are able to do without necessarily breaking the bank, which is why honestly I've moved on personally from Bradley Beal, as good as he would probably be for this.
So you're saying no to that deal?
I don't
Depot,
think
Duncan,
we.
and Tyler.
Yeah, I don't think we need to give up all that much, considering what those guys not only can become, but what they're already, what they can already do for this Heat team now when healthy. I'm just
Wow.
I'm
not
sending
convinced
it in.
anymore.
It's a hot take.
No, that's all
Ah.
right. I get it. I get it, but
Yeah, no,
not me.
you may be alone there, but I think it's a lot of people are starving for the transaction. I want to wrap with this question. We'll go
My
around.
stomach is grumbling. Sorry for the transaction, baby.
Right now, it's so true. We're very thirsty for transactions in this NBA Twitter world. But I've talked about all these players, and you, Ricky, you just kind of waxed poetic about Depot. Is the guy that's going to solve this right underneath our nose, and we're already overlooking him because this knee thing and just the uncertainty surrounding him, and obviously committing to him long term, and also the rumblings about Kyle Lowry, and if that's the position that they want to pivot to. Do any of you guys think that that maybe fans in general are overlooking Oladipo too soon?
Wow. I mean, you saw like some of the stuff he was doing before the injury went down. He put everybody in the right place. That's the thing that I was like looking forward to, and what I wrote about is what like he's gonna set people up to where they're gonna succeed. And I was like, oh yeah, this is the team I wanted to see. Even the defense is like you picture like the kind of thing they want. Like this is what they wanted. And then he goes down right as he was playing his best game, which is absolutely brutal. But you saw those flashes, but you never got to see the whole thing because he went down too early. And I can see like a week in the NBA feels like a month. Like you forget what you just saw. So I don't blame fans for like being like, oh well, we need this and that. And I don't blame you. But yeah, I loved what I saw from him. He was coming around. You saw the offense like starting to come into place. The defense was there. But you don't know how much you can rely on this guy because he's been hurt so much recently. And you hope that this knee thing is more of a minor issue. But as a very smart man once said, there's never a minor knee issue. So
This
you never
is
know.
It's kind of a crucial part of the body for basketball. Alex,
Nice pun.
is there any contract? Is there any long-term contract you're signing up for with Oladipo right now?
Damn it, man! You hit me with the tough ones, man. I mean, shit. It looks like you're the one who went to journalism school. Look, man, a long-term contract for Depot right now. You know me. I was driving home that Victor Oladipo agenda all year, and since started off in the bubble last year saying that he was better than he looked, but
Same.
I really wanted him on the Heat. I think he can really help them still. And, like Marco was talking about, you saw what the things that he could do before he went down in those last two games, specifically the last one. They go on these long scoring droughts, and it's a huge problem. Depot obviously gives them somebody else to attack the rim, like we said, to generate rim pressure, to create easy looks for guys like Duncan and Tyler, for a team that's constantly laboring for offense. And even Bam got some of those easy dump off passes that I feel like we rarely ever see because Jimmy is the only one who ever gets to the rim anymore.
Yeah.
So if it's not Jimmy giving him a dump off, it's nobody. So I think they're missing that already, that of what he brings on the offensive side, even though that was the question with him. They should bring him back. I think they should look into bringing him back. I just don't know if you can give him a long-term deal, especially not at the max. Like, it's just the questions are what they are. It's just it just wouldn't be responsible. I think you got to try to figure out a team-friendly deal, and it sucks because I know he's already turned down 2 extensions this year with the Pacers and the Rockets. So it would probably he probably wouldn't feel great about it, but they didn't promise him anything. So it's like,
it's true.
I don't know if you can give him a long-term deal unless it's a small number.
He turned down $90 million. I mean, Ricky, are you taking 3 years, $55 million for a guy like Depot, or are you taking $480 for your boy Lonzo? You know what I mean? Like, if you had to allocate your resources, are you going Depot or are you going Lonzo?
Honestly, I would take Lonzo and then maybe even bring in someone like Lowry on the cheap to kind of teach him some of the more I don't know, veteran necessary aspects, because it's possible to put Lowry as a small 2. I mean, it's not impossible at this point in the league.
But Lowry takes up your whole cap, though. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying that's if he takes a cheap deal, because the man is like 35 something years old. If he demands too much money, that's a whole other conversation altogether. But I think I would prefer Lonzo. But because here's the thing, I get that Depot turned down that raw deal, but here's the thing: if I were his agent, and he had the opportunity to extend at that kind of money, coming back from a quad injury in which he's been inconsistent, and when you've got quad injuries, that's like a domino effect. You take that deal for security purposes, the same way Paul George took that money in OKC after snapping his leg in half. The same way you've got various players around the league.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So so it's like, I don't know why you don't take that deal. Maybe I'm just speaking from the perspective of a pauper, but Depot's representation needs to understand that, nothing's promised in this league. Ask Karis LeVert. Was it Karis LeVert with the carcinoma that they only found because of the trade? Yeah. All these different players, like, you don't know. If a team, even if it's the Rockets, if they're offering you $90 million and you're not back to where you are or you should be, I get the whole double down, bet on yourself rhetoric, or that
Dion Waiters stuff.
A champ cheese mindset, of course.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
That's going great. Just about as good as Hassan's going.
Well, the thing is, with Dion, he had nothing left to lose. It was either that or he's out of the league. With Depot, that's future income he essentially forfeited. I don't know if he's going to get $90 million in the offseason from Miami or anybody.
Stay in Houston.
Well, maybe not, but that's his decision as an adult. That's a business decision he made, and I don't think that Miami should be held hostage financially because he chose not to re-up with them. He still could have gotten moved. So I don't know.
That's a good point.
Sorry.
Well, we absolutely did not solve anything, and we just essentially did an NBA trade version of transaction talk about the Miami Heat, but we appreciate everyone who tuned in. Again, check out Mark Brown PA for all your legal needs. MarkBrownPA.com, 954-566-5678. He sponsors every Floor's Yours episode. I don't know if we're going to have, we should have podcasts throughout the weekend after the games, post games, pre games, all those games. And Ethan will be back, so this will be much more smooth going forward. Have a good night.